Natallia Makaruk.
Couldn't say it better myself. Talking to a younger generation of Norwegians solve a lot of problems, I feel like. Now, it's like, don't kill what you hate, save what you love. So
I totally see that. On Maslamicha. Maslinischa.
yes, definitely.
It's very hard to keep in connection with your family members.
So the guy who's in power today
Yeah.
has been in power before I was born. Identity crisis is real. I'd struggle a lot.
Can apply to advertising
100%.
Forex trading before he came to sales.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a gossip question. Yeah.
Right? It's priceless, I think.
Love it. Hey folks, welcome to another episode of Insider's Insights. Today we have Natallia Makaruk. I hope I said your surname correctly. She is someone into sales, consulting from SimCorps, but such a diverse background because she also worked as a Forex trader and her educational background is from Warsaw School of Economics. So many different sectors and areas. I'm curious to know her journey, how she navigated and where she is now. So, hey Nat, how are you doing?
Hi, Pam. I'm great. And thank you so much for the invite. I'm super
My
honored.
pleasure.
I'm underqualified for this. Thanks for the intro. I couldn't say it better myself.
Cool. So, starting with, you did your undergrad from Warsaw School of Economics, right?
That's right.
Were you like an economics major in there or?
Semi, yes. I started Warsaw School of Economics. I was a kid. I started quite early because I left Belarus when I just turned 17 and I got a scholarship in Warsaw School of Economics. So I moved to Warsaw and I looked at the list of majors. I was like, all right, I'll pick the one that sounds the most evil, which
Yeah.
is quantitative methods and economics and information systems, which was intense. It was hell of a ride.
Of course.
It's a lot of statistics,
Mhm.
econometrics, macro, micro. So I was an economist in a way. I actually wrote my thesis on game theory within political sanctions, and back then, 20-something-year-old Natalia already concluded that economic sanctions don't work.
That's actually interesting that you touched upon sanctions because you were the recent winner of the INSEAD bootcamp session we had, right? And the idea you came up with was Wealth Made, a consolidated platform when your assets are spread across countries. So you have this one centralized platform. Now, I just want to connect sanctions of your assets. What is the impact of sanctions, for example, your assets in Belarus and the inflation because of the sanctions? How has it gone? Like, has it gone up, gone down, or?
So thanks a lot for asking, by the way, and for the congratulations. Very interesting experience. But back to sanctions, I'm lucky enough to leave Belarus as poor student. So I had absolutely no assets. I still don't. My parents are still in Belarus, and obviously family house is there, but that's pretty much where it ends. Now, what seems like a rather smart investment decision to move part of the assets from Belarus into Poland. So we bought an apartment, and after the war, prices in Warsaw went up. My friends are now laughing at me, telling me I trade wars, which I don't. But clearly there is a gain there. So in that sense, I'm rather kind of safe from the sanctions, but obviously I can't send money to my parents or even buy gifts to them because none of the cards are accepted down there. It is challenging in that sense, but it I guess hasn't massively altered or changed the way I operate. And when you think about it from the other perspective, is it war, like people in Ukraine or countries with inflation? What I think is extremely beneficial in terms of progress in those countries is the whole Web3 and the cryptocurrency space. Allows you, even which democratizes finance much grander, much more overwhelming concept. But
You
it
mean the
does,
Web3?
yeah, exactly. It does allow economists to still exist at the times when governments fail completely, right? At times where central banks can no longer do the printing, inflation is through the roof. I think that the cryptocurrency in those cases is a perfect remedy in light of worse sanctions or whatnot.
But then just want to touch upon that cryptocurrency then thing. If you look at AI lately, AI maybe 3, 4 years back, or even like 5, 6 years back, crypto was very hot, right? Every investor was looking into crypto, but now it's the turn of AI. But the difference I see is AI has real-time applications. Of course, crypto does have, but how has it really gone into real world applications? Like most of the crypto is still in concept stage, I think. What's your thoughts?
So I think it's much more real than I guess a majority of people would imagine, as in
Mm.
the biggest fund managers of the world, BlackRock, they issue an
Yes.
exchange traded fund that is
Mm.
crypto based. You have regulators in US that
Mm.
create all sort of rules and regulations that basically make it a proper new asset class, right?
Of
And
course.
I guess the whole problem with crypto and understanding what it actually is, brand new asset class, right? Like,
Yes.
when was the last time we had a new asset class? We had
Mm.
first equity was, I don't know, 600 years ago, maybe more,
Mm.
when
Yes.
we had a company, probably a shipping company, right, selling the rights for the ownership. And now we had governments raising bonds, right? So the concept of fixed income also emerged, long, long time ago when they
Yeah.
had to finance probably the wars. So now we have something very, very new, right? Something that we don't really know even how
Yes.
to think
Yes.
about, right? And
Mm.
this is why I guess a lot of people who are much smarter than I am are struggling to verbalize the concept of the new asset class, crypto, in a way that makes it very approachable and easy to understand. But
Yeah.
real-time applications, like I said, it's coming from a country which has a history of instability and
Mm.
lack of trust in the government, having an alternative source of exchanging trades,
Mm-hmm.
trading, and is great, right? Because it's decentralized,
Mm.
meaning that whatever happens politically, whether we're trying to overthrow the regime,
Mm.
there
Mm.
is
Mm.
still a way to protect your wealth and
Yes.
function economically on a certain level. That's the way I see it. Right? Obviously, there's a lot of hype, there is a lot of scam.
Definitely, with every new concept, it's always that uncharted territory. It'll take time for people to adapt. I definitely see the strength of crypto and the potential it has in the near future. Maybe 5 years down the line or a decade down the line, I'm sure it's going to be adapted. But maybe its time is coming with Elon and Trump taking over US. What do you think on that?
In terms of AI
Uh,
or capitalism.
well, whichever is closer to your heart.
Look, I a little bit of
Capitalism.
rollback, an
Yeah.
interlude in my past.
Yeah.
So when I graduated from Warsaw, Poland, I lived for a while elsewhere in Europe. So I lived in UK, then I moved to
Mm.
Norway, where I
Mm.
spent 5 years. And
Mm.
Norway is an extremely interesting country. It's obviously a democracy, embraces a lot of modern capitalism,
Mm.
but no, the example that they set with the creation of the oil fund, back in the 60s when they discovered oil and turned literally overnight from a poor fishing
Mm.
country into massive oil
Yeah.
nation is an extreme, right? And it doesn't
Mm.
happen. We don't have as many examples in history, but it's a very unique
Mm.
case where they had a government in place
Mm.
that took people's welfare above
Mm.
their own immediate interest and
Mm.
moreover future generations
Mm.
welfare. So they
Mm.
created a fund which is the biggest sovereign wealth fund in the world in certain metrics, which they're not even allowed to use up
Mm.
outside of the returns that they gain. Even during the pandemic, economy was down, still did a great job, to
Yes.
keep that money safe for future generations,
Yeah.
which is great, right? And it's such an inspiring example of
Mm.
to manage countries, how to lead countries. And there is another side to it, which I wanted to talk about, because you mentioned Trump and
Yes.
Ellen
Elon.
and stuff with the world, right? And I feel like there are a lot of things with capitalism that are clearly not working,
Yeah.
which I think all of us agree. But then the opposite side of it is talking to a younger generation of Norwegians
Mm-hmm.
who grew up wealthy state,
Mm.
never felt like there was missing anything or needing anything. All the bad things about capitalism, then they turn into ideas of an extreme socialism where we dismantle
Mm.
capitalism completely,
Mm-hmm.
let the governments own everything, get rid of private property.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so scary.
Of course.
From a post-Soviet country, I've
Yes.
seen it, when
Yeah.
everything you own's been taken care of,
Yes.
centralized, and
Yes.
brought into socialist country.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's almost a way to do it without a police state. So, obviously capitalism has its flaws, but I don't think we have a proper way of designing the opposite side of it. So
I agree.
the way it works today, what we define in capitalism is an economic profit. Perhaps we just need to think about the idea of the profit to include social profit, which would mean if we change that concept of profit and include social good, find a way to quantify things like motherhood, right? Or it will solve a lot of problems, I feel like. Now, I don't have a PhD in economics. I don't have a clear mechanism of how to do it, but it seems like there must be a way to change that, the way you incentivize people and the way you define profit, and turn that bad capitalism into something where we could create greater good.
I think so. It's actually those are the two very interesting topics I'm always curious about. Capitalism, yes, it did a great job, but lately some economists and some really smart people are finding flaws in capitalism, because you mentioned a point: when you put your personal interest above the people's interest, then it's no good for anyone. That's what happens in capitalism at an extreme level. Those are the flaws. But on the other side, the contrast is the Soviet Union example, where everything is centralized. Then it's like we don't have an exact solution.
Yes, I don't know. Like I said, I don't have a solution yet. We're working on it. But I don't see that we need to dismantle the ways we do things completely.
Yes.
We should focus on. It's like there's this quote. I think it's from Star Wars or something, and I'm not great at quotes. I don't remember them word by word, but it's like, don't kill what you hate, save what you love. So come up with something that is so much better that the old thing becomes obsolete, right? Old way, capitalism becomes obsolete. Or within ESG realm, right? Don't destroy the oil industry, jobs or whatever. Create a new technology that is so much cheaper and efficient that it will render fossil fuels obsolete, right? So don't kill what you save, what you love.
I totally see that. Now, just want to touch upon Maslenitsha. Is it pancake week? Did I say that correct?
What?
Maslenitsha. So the reason I say that is it the time of the year that you celebrate it?
No, it's not. We celebrate it in spring. It's a celebration of winter coming out of winter, basically, and celebrating the new life. Because in our part of the world, winters are usually tough and cold.
Yes.
And then the spring is coming, and then the nature is reborn, and you celebrate it with a pancake holiday, which is.
Then why did I come to this question is, with all the sanctions that's been put in place, is it very hard to keep in connection with your family members, or maybe visit them for significant family gatherings like that? How hard is it?
Oh, you touched on something very emotional. And for some, if you want to stay in touch with all your friends and all your family, so I'm trying to do some of it. I'm trying to super hard because I feel like in today's age and time, you need to spend glued to your smartphone, like stay connected with them via whatever, FaceTime and stuff like that. But obviously I can't be there for my nephew's birthday or for my niece's music school graduation, and it hurts a lot. And you get the photos and the videos, but it's obviously not the same as being there. But it's the trade-off, right? Whenever I guess a lot of expats would recognize themselves in it, make that trade-off, you're gonna miss out on all those things, but you're gonna gain more in a different area, whether it is the career you pursue or your passions in a certain other area of your life. It is I guess there are some people who are lucky and blessed to have
Mm.
both, right? I'm not one of them, so I kind of need to juggle that. Yeah, and it goes about my parents. We made on a neutral territory because I can't go back to Belarus, so we made outside in Europe, or I revamped this part of the world, whether it's Singapore or Thailand or.
But that makes sense. But it should be very hard. I agree. In one of the class you mentioned, when you've been suppressed in a country, growing up suppressed in many things, in many aspects, you will rebel. Maybe I think you were referring to Belarusian context when you were growing up back in the class. This is what I remember. How did you rebel in? Did you rebel in Belarus, or you rebelled in Europe or in Singapore? Or
Interesting question. Obviously, I was a teenager. We all were, and I was a rebellious teenager, right? In the, I guess, a mini context of my family or what. But I think I was extremely happy to be born into my family and be raised by my parents, who were a little bit of rebels themselves. So they were never agreed with the ruling party. So just for the context, so the guy who's in power today has been in power before I was born.
From 1991, right? He's the first.
Very, very long time. Yes. He was the first president of Belarus when Soviet Union collapsed, and he's still in charge. And so I was growing up in that environment where there was no respect for authority that is just an authority. So I was always planted that seed of doubt that you always need to have a rational doubt about literally everything. And like I'm so thankful because of that. So like, the person in charge is very evil, as it turned out, because he basically killed all his opponents first power. He threatened all the potential future opponents, and then we turned into what is now known as the last dictatorship in Europe. And so back to that rebellious state. So like my parents were raised in an environment where they were told, like, don't say anything, make sure you don't stick out. Even if you have a different opinion, don't voice it, because you are gonna get punished. You're gonna get sent to Siberia, right? You're gonna die in there. And so the reason I say I'm very, very thankful to be growing up in my family is because I feel like they were able to break that generational curse. They're able to instill that seed of doubt, and there is, the whole world out there differently that might be better, that you want to explore. So I feel like they were rebels in that sense, right? So they didn't go with the flow, with whatever party was telling them to go with. It's not an easy task. It's very difficult. So the fact that they were able to rebel against it in maybe very tiny little way, but my
Still
life.
It matters. Of course. At least the chance to voice your opinion is the most important thing, at least, right? The basic right, for sure. Follow up on the rebelling thing, your teens and college and career now. So you moved from Belarus to Poland, then you and Norway. I was in Norway as well. The culture is very different than UK. Then Singapore. It completely falls apart now. So you have picked up bits and pieces from every part of the world on your travels, on your work trips, whatnot. You're not the same person that who has left maybe a decade back, and the viewpoint has changed. So the reason I asked is like, then that would be really challenging for you to go and live in Belarus after all this, or not?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, yes, definitely. Yeah, I mean, look, the identity crisis is real.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am Belarusian, and I think today I am much more comfortable in my skin. I guess this is something that happens with age, probably. But back when I was just starting up, and I was, let's say, in Norway trying to talk to people, or traveling to States, traveling to China, trying to explain people where you're from. Sometimes you take the easy path, and you're like, oh, I'm from Russia or whatever, because Russian is my mother tongue. And it is part of my culture, because literature, the ways of the things working, is very similar. And so it's fine with that. But then back in 2020, we had an attempt to overthrow the regime. in Belarus. There was another election that was rigged. The guy, basically self-proclaimed leader, was still in charge. The police detained tens
Yes.
of thousands of people. Another tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands left and live in exile today, including some of my good friends. So terrible thing happened, but that thing also made me understand who I am. I was like, oh wow, the country is filled with so many bright individuals who care about the future of the
Yeah.
country and future of the nation. So I now relate so much more to them, and I'm super proud to say I'm Belarusian, and take the time to explain to people that this isn't part of Russia and it's
Of
a
course.
different country. But yeah, the identity crisis is real. I would probably, if I were transported into Belarus today and made the leap life there, I would clearly struggle. I will probably, despite I know the language and I grew up there, I'd struggle a lot, definitely. And although globalization has reached Belarus to a certain extent, propaganda never sleeps. It's a funny story. I remember when several months after the war started, my father moved to I was basically going back and forth for a couple of weeks to see his father, my granddad. And so he was helping him renovate his apartment. I know, painting walls, brushing up here and there. And then they would spend a lot of time together. And then in the evenings, they would watch TV. And after several, I think, days or maybe a week or 2 weeks, I'd call my dad and he'd be like, this war, I'm actually not sure anymore. What are you talking about? I'm just like, I've been watching this TV so much that I'm actually, I don't know anymore anything. And I'm like, wow, this is this massive mechanism in action, right? Like my father, who is extremely intelligent, smart man, he's been influenced. Then what can we say about people who are less resilient, right? Who maybe don't have higher education or don't read as much, right? It's very scary.
It is, definitely. Yeah, the propaganda is real. That's with but I don't want to blame advertising. It can apply to advertising a little bit as well.
100%.
So you also have a background of Forex trading before you came to sales.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, if some MBAs want to, who are pursuing in Seattle or MBAs anywhere else, if they want to be, for example, in trading from marketing, if they want to switch, what would you recommend them?
For one, you need to come there with the understanding of what is it that attracts you to the role, right? Because just going there for money is probably not a not a good idea.
Great.
And I think it's not a good idea for any career choice, right?
I agree.
So think about something that is it okay? Do you ultimately want to be working in investment bank? Is that what you want to do? Or do you want to trading because it excites you to think about macro events and how they impact the market? And then think about the edge that you have. Because the way I think about it is whenever there is a difference, there is a value. So although you're a graduate, you had your experience in marketing, and you're trying to enter a dealing desk, which is full of quants and stuff, perhaps your way of thinking about it is, look, I've been marketing products. I thought about sales and marketing. Perhaps, I could walk in and offer the ways we could kind of switch around the way we have an offering for our clients and help you reach more audience or more clients in the way, I would be joining the desk. So something around those lines. Yeah, for one, have a very clear answer to why you want to do that, both for your own sanity, but also for the interviewer.
Of course, yeah.
And the second one is, think about that because although you might think, oh, I'm not experienced in trading, I'm not a math wizard. Like that, if you bring in something new to the table, there is a value in it. So, but the question is, it will align with that particular desk you're trying to enter. So I'd say those are the two key things.
I think we are slowly coming to the end of this conversation. One of the previous guests, Avi, he asked for a gossip question to the next guest. The question is either did you find anything crazy about diversity or anything that you've seen in the last 4 months that we've all been together? Any interesting incident?
And I don't know which one to pick. So many good gossips to describe. But yeah, maybe trying to answer the other one, which is like, the
Diversity.
diversity and it impacts. I mean, yeah, I already said it a couple of times today during our conversation, but it's obviously clear to me how whenever there is difference, there is a value, and how much you can learn from that difference. And we're lucky to be different with the others in the cohort in a very good way, right? Because obviously, you're surrounded by so many smart and talented individuals that you just, can't help but explore, they're different, how they're different from you. And, you might have come thinking like, oh, with people from this industry, like I'm not trying to generalize it, but like, you'd think, okay, what is it possibly that we could even bond over, right? Like there is no common kind of points. Like,
yes.
then you listen to their story, you talk to, and you're like, wow, like this resonates so much with me, and I think that so amazing, such a gift to like understand that whatever stereotypes, prejudices you have, like it's helpful to just turn them off and like lean in and hear the other person's story and embrace that otherness, because and definitely bond and connect over one thing or another. And like this is something that is powerful in that cohort.
Yeah. So you're at a point of your career where you're into sales, but then what are you expecting from INSEAD? Why INSEAD now?
Question. I forgot what I wrote in my essay already because I came with one idea, and then I think it has changed so much and transformed into something completely different. I don't know if I even had a chance to kind of reformulate that new expectation or that new reality that I have. And I think the reason that question is now difficult to answer is also because it's so overwhelming. It's not indirectly, but every single aspect of your life. So like, that past year and a half, where I came from making a decision to, apply for an executive MBA, up until now, it's been such a roller coaster, and I learned so much, and I've changed so much, and I've questioned so many, opinions about things or the way I view things, that I don't know anymore what is it that I'm after. What I remember though was that it was also difficult to answer the question like, what is an ROI, right? Like on that end, like people would like, oh, what is it's so expensive and it's such a time commitment, and you have been doing different things.
Yeah, I agree.
So for me, I could see how, like what is it that you're getting out of it? And the reason it's very difficult to answer is because you can't put an ROI on your life because of that change in the mindset and the way you think about things, and the confidence you gain and all the people that you meet. You're no longer the same person, right? It's priceless, I think.
Well, that's actually very profound. So I think like we came to the end of this now. So is there a question that you want to ask the next guest? We don't know who that is, but we can ask.
I see. I haven't properly thought that through. Maybe if you could choose to live one person's life, dead or alive today, who would that be and why? So like for my case, for example, if that's of any benefit, I would like to go into mind like of, Hitler or Stalin, to understand the evil. I struggle to contemplate how there is so much evil that can be in like one human being. So that'd be an answer for me. But I'm really curious to hear what the second guest would pick and why.
Yeah, pretty deep question. Let's see who that guest is gonna be and what they're gonna answer. That's it. Tune in for another interesting conversation with another interesting guest. Until then, take care. Bye.